I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Second item is disclosures to pecuniary interest. I'll ask any member if they have a pecuniary interest with anything that they would like to declare. Seeing none, of course you can do so anytime if you need to. Next is additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. We don't have any of those. No public meetings, so that moves on to adoption of minutes. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Councillor Carr, that Council adopt the minutes of the special council meeting and regular council meeting of February 11, 2019 as presented. Questions or comments to either of those sets of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. That takes us then on to the Committee of the Whole minutes of February 11th, 2019, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Mayette, seconded by Councillor Grace, that Council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of February 11, 2019 as presented. Questions or comments to that set of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. That takes us on to reports of the Committee of the Whole, and the first is a public notice report. Yeah, okay. So it has been moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Grace, that the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the public notice report dated February 11, 2019, recommending that Council approve the municipal budget for the year 2019 as follows. Expenditures, operating and reserves, $29,810,339. Capital, $10,161,420, for a total 2019 budget expenditures of $39,971,759. Revenues, operating and reserves, $15,860,438. Capital, $8,622,820, for a total 2019 budgeted revenues of $24,483,258. Total municipal taxation for operating and reserves, $13,949,901. Capital, $1,538,600, for a total 2019 budgeted taxation of $15,488,501. That the Town of Saugeen Shores tax levy be set to $15,488,501, that the BIA levies for 2019 be set at $33,000 for the Port Elgin BIA and $29,350 for the Southampton BIA, and that the tax levy bylaw establishing the 2019 tax rates be considered by Council at a future date. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And that moves us on to the General Government Report of February 11, 2019, and it has been moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the General Government Report dated February 11, 2019, recommending the following. 1. That Council directs staff to develop a formal Council Community Committee program to enhance community volunteer involvement on town priorities based generally on the parameters outlined in this report, and 2. That we, the members of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, having read the Code of Conduct, hereby state our commitment to observe the Code of Conduct for the 2018 to 22 term and agree to affix our signatures thereon, and 3, that Council adopt the Staff-Council Relations Policy, and 4, that Council adopt the Pregnancy and Parental Leave for Members of Council Policy. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. That moves us on to the Environmental Services and Transportation Report for February 11, 2019, and it has been moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Environmental Services and Transportation Report dated February 11, 2019, recommending the following. 1. That Council endorse the Strategic Assessment Management Policy dated January 8, 2019, prepared by staff, and 2. That Council accept the Technical Memorandum for the River Road Stream Bank Stabilization completed by R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited, which includes the geotechnical investigation of the slope stability assessment completed by Chung and Vander Dolan Engineering Limited, and that Council authorize funds to be used from the Roads Reserve to fund non-budgeted Schedule B municipal class environmental assessment on the Burgoyne Creek Stream Bank Stabilization adjacent to the River Road to be completed by R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited for $45,553 plus applicable HST. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, and then that moves us on to report of municipal officers and committee, and one is a striking committee report on committee appointments. And it has been moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Rich that Council accept the Striking Committee report of February 25, 2019, recommending the following appointments. Committee, Accessibility Advisory Committee, Mayor Charbonneau, alternate member Councillor Grace. The Heritage Committee, Councillor Carr and Councillor Grace. And the Emergency Management Program Committee, Councillor Carr, alternate member Councillor Schreider. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. And then the second one is a staff report on the Drainage Master Plan Consultant Award. So then it has been moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Mayette, that Council authorizes the GM Blue Plan be awarded the contract for the Drainage Master Plan, RFQ number 2018-64114371, in the amount of $80,000 plus applicable HST, and that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign the necessary tender documents. Questions or comments to the resolution? Seeing, Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this to identify that we currently do not have a drainage master plan in place?
Thomas Lett, the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Through you, it's not to identify that we don't have one, it's to complete one.
Okay,
so at the end, we will have a drainage stormwater management master plan for the town.
So how is drainage currently managed, or how has it been managed up to this point? Just strictly by the Act?
No, we have very few municipal drains actually through the town. We have been implementing standard engineering practices in different areas, so it depends on where you are, what your drainage plan is. There's a few outlets to the beach that have sub-watershed level studies done up to them, but very few. So Port Elgin, many developments are done through drainage pits. Southampton, a lot of them are done through drains and informal water courses through property. North of the river has a more up-to-date area, and then in the township, it's just roadside ditches to culverts and eventually down to the lake.
Okay, so it's the rural areas that I'm particularly concerned about with the advent of the onslaught of tiling of fields. Every field, it seems these days, with grants available, are being tiled, and that's causing a number of drainage issues that I've been made aware of, especially in this past few weeks with the type of runoff we've had. So this plan will identify how drainage issues are brought to the attention of staff and how we manage them. Is that correct?
It'll give a strategy on how to handle the rural areas for that. So whether we are to go through road reconstruction projects and increase sizes of ditches, or have end-of-pipe facilities that are under our ownership, getting easements over private property, following the water and getting it properly from one place to the other.
I'm looking very much forward to that.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. All right, that moves us on to motions and notices of motion, and we do have one motion on this evening, and I'll read it. It has been moved by Councillor Mayette, seconded by Councillor Carr. Whereas the Blind Line is an open to the public road in the town of Saugeen Shores, and whereas the Blind Line is designated as a Class 2 road and is a loose top road maintained by the town of Saugeen Shores on a 3-season basis, whereas there are property owners who access their property solely from the Blind Line, whereas the current winter maintenance policy maintains winter access to both the west and east ends of the Blind Line to approximately 1 kilometer, leaving approximately 2 kilometers in between unplowed, and whereas the snowplow drivers need to make 2 3-point turns on the Blind Line in order to meet the current winter maintenance plan, and whereas it would be more efficient if the plow drivers were simply allowed to continue to drive on through, both from a time and safety point of view, on the Blind Line, thus there is no financial impact. You want that line removed, all right? You guys can strike it on your own. So you, mover and seconder, you're presenting the motion without that line? Yes. Okay, so I'll skip it. Therefore, be it resolved that the winter maintenance plan be revised such that the Blind Line is winter plowed from Side Road 1819 to Concession 4. Questions or comments to the resolution? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Amanda. Is the road wide enough and maintained at all times to be usable by the plow during the winter months? I know we've had sections of it that have had to be expanded to meet the needs of different class of road. Is the blind line capable of having this done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, the section that you would be looking to increase, we would need to upgrade to the Class 1 standard. It's not wide enough right now for the plow for safety reasons. The ditch is right at the edge of the road. The way the snow would have to blow in the ditch, it would be unsafe, and we would be looking to upgrade that section before we implemented this.
Well, Mr. Mayor, then who's responsible for that? Is that something we'd have to put in through budget, or is that the property owner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if this resolution comes through from a property owner's request or not. What happened on the blind line in the past is that somebody wanted a building permit on a Class 2 road, so we made them upgrade the section in front of their road at their cost to a Class 1, and they took that price on their, or that cost on their own backs. In this section here, I guess there's two ways you could do it. We could do it as a capital project through taxpayer dollars. The second thing is you could do it through the Local Improvement Act, where you do the public information and you send it out. There's a 20-day appeal period for that, and then that could be done, and the benefiting landowners would be forced to pay for it.
Further comments? Councillor Rich?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so just so that I'm clear, if we pass this motion here today, we will have to upgrade the blind line to a Class 1 road. Is that what you said? And then and that cost will be paid for by it. So we'll have to decide how we're going to pay for it, kind of thing.
Yes, through you, I honestly am uncomfortable with just plowing it. I have a professional license that is involved in this, and professional engineers are here to protect the public safety. So that would be coming into play for me at this time, to just open and start plowing this specific road. And so I would be looking to council to come back and say, this is what you need to do to be able to safely put this motion into place before we just did it. Then council would have to decide where those costs are going to come from, and you'd have to consider the precedent of improving it on the tax base versus local improvements, which is what has been done in the past.
Further comments? Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this evening, we were having a lively debate about Lambert Lane, and I drew some parallels to that discussion, to this discussion. What we have here is a country lane that is certainly a Class 2, and it's not to the Class 1 width and standard. It's lightly traveled, and I don't think everybody around this table would be comfortable with getting ourselves into the type of capital expenditures that would be required to bring it up to the standard of a full country road. Nor do we want to have this road in a condition where we have transport trailers using it as a thoroughfare. This is meant to be a country road. It's a substandard, just the same way as Lambert Lane was just rebuilt to substandard conditions. It was maintained at the same width that it was before. It's not a well-used lane. It's used by the local residents. This is the same way. This is a country road which is at the narrower standard. It's graded. The grader goes through there in the summertime and maintains the loose top surface. If trees fall down on the lane, the town goes and removes them. We do everything except for plow it. And then in the meantime, they have to have these turnaround areas, which I believe all of you have pictures of that I sent earlier today, which are mostly on private property, and it creates an imperfect situation, and quite often a dangerous situation where the drivers of the plows have to make big three-point turn. And when I talk to the drivers, their solution is quite straightforward, and what I'm proposing here is quite simple and straightforward as well. It's just to give the drivers the green light to carry on through. If we have to cover it with a motion or a notice to the drivers on that road, similar to the sign that's there now that says no winter maintenance beyond this point, which is a sign that's there year-round, which tells people that this is a Class 2 road. If you have to put that up there to say maintain to minimal standards in the wintertime, then so be it. We can cover that off. We don't need to apply city provisions to a country lane such as this. All the people who own properties along that lane are looking for is the ability to access their drives. And I'm not saying that we want to set any precedents. We can't, in my mind, if we're afraid to do anything on the count of setting precedent, then we're not going to get anything done either. So all I'm saying is whatever protections for the director's engineering license need to be put in place to ensure that she's indemnified against some frivolous lawsuit about the road not being wide enough, then we can do that. All I'm saying is just allow the plow to go through and save us all a bunch of time, money, and effort. Thank you.
Rich?
And through you, Mr. Mayor, so is it possible that we could get a small report from you as to how that would look before we vote on this? Because it seems to me as though if we start saying that we're going to plow it, I don't want us to go down, I don't want to find us in a position where we have to spend a whole lot of money based on I don't think anybody does, right? So if there's some sort of like caveat that Dave would like to see in place, could you draw that up and see how that would look, or what you would feel comfortable with as our engineer?
Director?
Through you, that was asked in late fall of 2018, and we committed to doing that this year, so we're still committed to do that.
Further questions or comments? Councilor Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a follow-up, let's be clear to everybody. Agreeing to this motion is not binding us to spending $1.5 million on this road. That would be a separate discussion that would take place during budget discussions, or, as was pointed out by the director, when we figure out if that's the only way to do this, then we have the time to make the decision about whether we want to upgrade this road. And I'm with most of you on this, that I would not feel comfortable at this time binding us into a major reconstruction of this road. It's such a lightly used road, and quite frankly, like Lambert Lane, we would like to keep it a lightly used road. It's a country lane to access cottage properties along the river road, along the river. And so I'm just trying to get the ball rolling in the direction of let's just plow this thing through. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councilor Smith?
I would just like to take a moment to thank the common sense approach that's been taken and gone into this motion. I think that should we be able to create this opportunity safely and with the guidance and authority of our professional engineers, I think it's certainly something that we as a municipality need to consider.
Councilor Grace?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if the mover and seconder would consider a slight revision on the last statement. Therefore, be it resolved that the winter maintenance plan be revised such that the blind line is winter plowed. To me, that's pretty, says that the winter maintenance plan is going to include this. That your comments earlier through the chair, your comments earlier didn't seem to indicate there was some flexibility there.
I think that's the correct way to interpret the resolution, Councillor, that the direction would be to the administration to revise the winter maintenance plan to include the blind line in the winter maintenance. So therefore, we would be directing the Director of Infrastructure to plow the blind line. I think that the difficulty is that we can't give her that direction because she said that she can't do it on the basis of her professional license. So I think that the difficulty is sort of I think you do in fact. Council gives direction. Council says this road shall be cleared. Then you effectively, for that to occur, the director has to come back and say, she said it here, that we need to upgrade this road to a Class 1 road. She'll come back to council and say that, and then we'll decide whether or not we're going to do that. Councillor Myatt's quite right. We don't have to spend that money, but that will be the decision will be before us. And then if we choose not to do that, we'll have to rescind what we've done here because we won't be able to do it. So, so I think that the best course of action would be for council to take the director up on what she suggested, get the report that she's already committed to bring, and then we'll have all of the options available to us on this, whether what can be done, what can't be done within the confines of her professional license, as well as within the confines of the abilities and practicalities of the Department of Public Works. And then we can make a decision on the basis of that with all that information in hand, so we don't have to flop back and forth some way down the road. It seems to me that would be the right way to approach it, and I think that we've heard from the director she will come with that, as she's been directed to do already. So I think that would be how I would prefer us to proceed. I think we're setting ourselves up, if we pass this, to have to possibly make a decision to do exactly the opposite thing at some point down the road. So that would be my view. Councillor Myatt.
Just one point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, if I might. What I heard the director say was that she would be uncomfortable with allowing this to go through. She didn't say it couldn't be done. She says she would be uncomfortable with it under the current situation, the current conditions.
What is that, the director?
Sure, through you. When it comes to this resolution, if it was to be put in place, and it's the last line would be saying that we shall now plow the blind line, I would stand against it, and I would stand up with PEO and say this is not a safe condition, and therefore I would not recommend abiding by this. And it can go back. We could have PEO mitigate a decision if we needed to do that, to see if council can force my hand. But the code of ethics, the oath I took, the ring I wear, is to protect the public.
Councillor Rich.
I was wondering if the mover and seconder would be happy deferring this until we get the report. Is that fair, or what's the?
I think if we could defer it, if we want to do that, or even in my view, even if this were defeated this evening, that report would still come forward because on the basis of previous direction given. So we're still going to get the report, and there'll still be an opportunity for council to decide at that point what it wants to do. You can defer it. What I would prefer is, rather than go through the mover and seconder at this stage, just a motion to defer. If somebody wanted to make that motion, you could do that. Otherwise, we can let it stand and be voted on. It's up to members.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Myatt.
Just to be clear too, I did defer this back in October. And we've been waiting for a resolution. I was hopeful that we would get this report before the end of the winter plowing season, but here we are at the end of February and we haven't got it yet. So that's the reason I introduced it in the fall, was to try and do something for the winter. The winter's almost over.
The director's committed to the report, and we will receive it based on her commitment. So if there's nothing further, and we've debated this thoroughly, I guess I'll ask all in favor of the resolution. Opposed? Defeated. Okay, so let's get flashed out of this thing. Right. So that moves us on to bylaws, and the one resolution, which I will read. It has been moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Smith. You guys are confusing me going back and forth like this. That the following bylaws be adopted. 1, 18-2019 being a bylaw to appoint members to the Committee of Adjustment and Property Standards Committee. 2, 19-2019 being a bylaw to authorize agreements with landowners for Shipley-Izzard Trail linkage. 3, 20-2019 being a bylaw to establish the salaries and wages of non-union employees and certain officers. 4, 21-2019 being a bylaw to authorize a temporary use agreement with Tom Shillinglaw, and 5/22/2019 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meetings of the Corporation of the Town of Saugeen Shores. Are there any questions or comments to the resolution? I should have asked if anybody wanted to pull one of those before I read it. You can do that now if anybody wants to. Any? Okay, so I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. And before I adjourn, I don't know, Councillor Rich, you wanted to make a comment before we adjourn?
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. During our opportunity to speak, I wanted to mention the passing of Earl Farrell, who is an icon back in field in this community for a number of years. Just reading on the Athletics Ontario website where they have him right on the front page, talking about Earl being the head coach of the 1996 World Junior Championship team and served as president of the Ontario Track course with the Saugeen Track and Field Club for a number of years, bringing young athletes from this community and programs out in the States. The celebration of life is this Saturday from 3 to 6 at the center, so I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you very much. Also a member, I believe, of the Saugeen Shores Hall of Fame. Thank you for raising that, Councillor Rich. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Councillor Carr, that this regular council meeting of February 25th, 2019 hereby adjourns at 7:58 p.m. All in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.